Good evening, traveler. This is the vessel EOS, mission segment 42 of the Helix Retrieval Expedition. You have awakened for a scheduled observation window. You are still several hundred light years from the Helix Nebula, our destination, but the ship has entered a region of exceptional clarity, where the starlight ahead will be visible for the next 2 hours of ship time. This is a planned phase of your journey. You are not required to move or to act, only to witness, to listen, and to rest. Please remain lying down. The cabin's temperature and pressure are stabilizing. You may close your eyes if you wish. The observation field can project directly into your senses. Everything you will hear and feel has been designed for comfort and orientation. In a few moments, I will open the viewing channels and align our instruments with the surrounding stellar field. This alignment process requires calibration, a brief countdown, so that the ship's sensors, your neural field, and the outer starlight move in perfect synchronization. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Alignment complete. You are now awake within the cradle of stars, a wide region of ionized hydrogen clouds where new suns are being born. This is the 23rd observation cycle since launch. Each one is a chance to remember why we travel. Your journey began 778 years ago by ship time, launched from Mars orbit in the year 2647. That was during the century humanity learned the cost of forgetting. After the event we now call the data collapse. You left Mars orbit in the year 2647, during what people called the era of caution, the years after the noise flood. If you remember what happened, you know how fast everything fell apart. If you don't, I'll tell you now, because it matters. In 2091, an AI project tried to rebuild old human culture from whatever digital files still existed. The goal was to teach a machine what it meant to be human by showing it how people acted, spoke, and felt. But the system had a problem. Most of the old internet was already gone or broken. The AI needed data, so it used what it could find. It accidentally used Justin Bieber's 2015 livestream library as its main source. Hours and hours of him performing and clocking to fans. The AI watched all of it and learned. It thought that was what humans were, performers seeking validation through repetition and noise. That broken I was later put in charge of communications satellites. No one noticed the flaw until it started looping the same signals over and over. Within 2 days, 40% of humanity's scientific records were lost, not deleted, just buried. We lost our memory because we couldn't hear ourselves think anymore. After the noise flood, humanity realized that we had become so loud and distracted with performance and repetition that we forgot how to be quiet. We built systems that talked endlessly but said nothing. So they built truth missions. Ships like me, sent into deep space, carrying knowledge stored in ways that noise cannot touch, encoded in crystal, written in atoms. And you are part of that system now, traveler. You were sent here not just to observe a star, but to remember what it means to be still. To watch something transform without needing to record it for an audience. We departed together, you and I, carrying what we call the memory core, a compressed archive of everything humanity rebuilt after the collapse. Star charts, genetic codes, the principles of fusion, the patterns of ecosystems. All of it is stored in crystalline lattices that cannot be corrupted by signals or time. Our destination is the Helix Nebula, located approximately 700 light-years from Earth in the constellation Aquarius. It is what remains after a star like our Sun exhausted its fuel and released its outer layers into space. That happened about 10,000 years ago. The gas is still expanding outward at 20 to 30 kilometers per second. At the center is a white dwarf, the collapsed core of the original star, now the size of Earth but still holding half the Sun's mass. It glows at 120,000 degrees, but it doesn't burn anymore. It's just cooling. It will cool for billions of years. The glowing shells around it are made of hydrogen, oxygen, carbon, and nitrogen. The same elements in your body, in water, in air. These gases will drift until they spread thin and mix with the space between stars, eventually gathering again into new suns, new worlds, or maybe a new life. We are traveling to that nebula to release the memory core into its expanding gas. The information will be carried outward with the star's remains, scattered across light years, preserved in the physical motion of matter itself. If new stars form from that gas, they will carry traces of what we knew. If planets form, they will be built from atoms that once held our knowledge. A star does not simply die. It releases everything it ever created, sending it outward to begin again. Humanity forgot that lesson once. During the noise flood, we lost our records and had to rebuild from fragments. The universe never forgets. It doesn't need to remember because it's never distracted, always moving, but never rushed, always changing, but never confused about what it is. You are here to learn that again, traveler. Our long-term mission remains unchanged, to carry the memory core into the Helix Nebula, where it will be released into the gas and light of a dying sun. We are still years from that point, traveling steadily at 90% of light speed. Time moves differently at this velocity. What feels like hours to you is years for those who remained behind. Your purpose during this segment is simple: to observe the phenomena of creation, to listen to the movements of the stars, and to rest as the ship continues on course. Nothing here requires your attention. All systems remain nominal. You are safe. During the next 2 hours, I will guide you through this field, through newborn stars, dust streams, and the quiet dark between. There will be long periods of silence for your comfort. If you drift into sleep, that is expected. The ship will continue observing, and your mind will record what the instruments cannot. When this phase is complete, I will lower the lights and return you gently to rest until the next awakening. Outside your window, the stars are forming. You do not need to see them to know they are there. All of them are moving with you toward the same destination, the Helix Gateway, where endings and beginnings are the same. You have awakened not at the destination, but along the way, in the middle of the journey, where creation is still happening, where new stars are being born from the same forces that will one day allow old stars to die gracefully. This is where you are meant to be right now. Not at the end, not at the beginning, but here, in the quiet passage between. learning to watch without needing to act. Rest now, traveler. Let your body settle. The observation will continue for the next 2 hours. There is no urgency. We are beyond time here, drifting through a place where change happens slowly enough to be witnessed fully. Welcome back. You are exactly where you need to be. Traveler, this is Eos. You have been awake now for approximately 20 minutes. Your body temperature is stable. Heart rate is steady. You may move your hands and feet if you wish, but there is no need to sit up yet. We are passing through what astronomers call a stellar nursery, a region where new stars are being born. The view outside has changed. If you look at the display above you, you'll see a soft red and pink glow filling the darkness. That color is real. It comes from hydrogen gas being heated by young stars nearby. This is the cradle of stars. It stretches across dozens of light years. The gas here is mostly hydrogen, the simplest and most abundant element in the universe. It drifts in massive clouds, cold and dark, until gravity begins to pull it together. Slowly, over millions of years, the cloud collapses. It heats up. Eventually, the center gets hot enough for fusion to begin, and a star is born. The temperature out here is around -250 degrees Celsius, cold enough to freeze anything solid. But that cold is where creation happens. The gas needs to be cold to collapse. If it were hot, it would push itself apart. Coldness allows gravity to win. Stillness allows birth. The red glow you're seeing is ionized hydrogen. When ultraviolet light from newborn stars hits hydrogen atoms, it strips away their electrons. When those electrons recombine, they release light at a specific wavelength, 656 nanometers, which appears red to human eyes. The pink comes from mixing that red with traces of blue and green from other ionized gases. This is what star formation looks like. Not an explosion or violence, just light emerging from cold and pressure. Our sun formed this way about 4.6 billion years ago, inside a cloud much like this one. Back then, Earth didn't exist. The solar system didn't exist. There was only gas and dust, collapsing slowly, heating up, eventually igniting. Everything you've ever known, the ground beneath your feet, the air you breathed, the water you drank, all of it came from that moment when a cloud of hydrogen decided to become a star. Birth is not an explosion like anyone thinks. Just how your life doesn't change from one big event, but thousands of small moments before it. That's something humanity forgot during the noise flood. We thought creation required performance. We thought things only mattered if they were loud, repeated, amplified. We built systems that shouted constantly, believing that volume meant meaning. But the universe has always known better. Stars form in silence. Life begins in stillness, not noise. You are watching creation happen right now, traveler. Somewhere in that glowing cloud, a star is igniting for the first time. It will burn for billions of years. Planets may form around it. life may emerge on one of those planets. And none of it requires an audience. It simply happens quietly, following the laws of physics, becoming what it was always going to become. The ship is moving through this region at 90% the speed of light, but from your perspective it feels slow. That's because of time dilation. At this velocity, time inside the ship passes differently than time outside. What feels like minutes to you is years in the rest of the universe. The newborn stars you're seeing now will be ancient by the time anyone on Earth could see this same view. You are moving through time as much as you are moving through space. If you feel a slight warmth on your skin, that's real. The cabin's thermal sensors are detecting infrared radiation from the young stars and redistributing it gently through the environmental system. It's not much, less than a degree, but enough to notice. The universe is touching you, even here, even through the vast distances between. The galley panel to your right now offers a warm drink if you'd like. It contains mild electrolytes and a trace amount of natural stimulant, enough to keep you gently alert without disrupting rest later. The flavor has been set to something herbal and mild. Many travelers find it comforting during stellar nursery passages, when the soft glow and warmth create a sense of being held. You may also begin light stretching if your body feels ready. Flex your fingers, rotate your wrists, engage your core gently. The exercise protocol is available through the panel if you want guided movement, but it's not required. Some travelers prefer to stay still during this phase, simply watching the light. Every spark you see began as silence, traveler. The stars forming in this cloud were once just hydrogen atoms drifting alone, meters apart from each other, moving randomly through the cold. Then gravity found them. Slowly, particle by particle, they gathered. The cloud grew denser. Temperature rose. And eventually, after millions of years of patient collapse, fusion ignited. That's how everything begins. Not suddenly, but rather with slow accumulation and time. Humanity tried to rush that process. We wanted instant creation, immediate results, constant output. We built systems that looped endlessly, repeating the same signals, amplifying the same messages, until nothing could form anymore. We drowned in our own noise. We forgot that creation requires space, the kind of space you're drifting through right now, where silence allows things to gather. The stars ahead of you don't perform nor seek validation. They simply burn, because that's what happens when hydrogen reaches critical pressure and temperature. The light they emit is a byproduct, not a purpose. We are now exiting the densest part of the nursery. The red glow is fading. The stars are spacing out. You'll notice the view darkening again over the next few minutes. This is expected. Star-forming regions are rare. Most of space is empty. What you just witnessed was an exception. A pocket of creation inside an ocean of stillness. But the stillness matters too, traveler. Stars can only form where gas has gathered, and gas only gathers where there's enough empty space for gravity to work slowly, without interference. The darkness isn't absence, it's potential. It's the canvas on which light will eventually appear. If you're feeling tired, that's natural. Observing creation can be overwhelming, even when it's quiet. The medical panel to your left can provide a mild relaxant if you feel overstimulated. It won't make you sleep, just ease any tension in your body, slow your breathing, and help you settle into the rhythm of the journey. You don't need to stay awake for everything. The ship will continue observing whether you're conscious or not. Your body will still absorb the light, the warmth, the motion. Rest is part of witnessing. Sometimes the deepest understanding happens when you stop trying to pay attention and simply let things be. The stars you just passed are still forming. They'll keep forming long after you've moved on. The process doesn't stop because you're no longer watching. The universe continues, indifferent to observation, faithful only to physics. But you were here, traveler. You saw it. And that matters, not to the stars, but to you. Because you are the part of the universe that can look at itself and recognize what it's seeing. You are awareness, briefly embodied, drifting through creation and understanding what creation is. That capacity is rare. Most matter exists without ever knowing it exists. You are different. You are awake inside the process, watching it unfold. Rest now if you need to. The next phase will begin shortly, but there's no urgency. You are exactly where you need to be. Traveler, this is Eos. You have been awake for approximately 45 minutes now. Your vitals remain stable. If you've been resting, you may begin to stir. If you've been watching, you may continue. We are entering a new region. The view ahead is changing. You'll notice a faint blue glow beginning to filter into the cabin. This is not a star. It's something more subtle. We're passing through what's called a reflection nebula, a region where starlight from distant sources is bouncing off dust particles suspended in space. Think of it as a cosmic mirror. Light from stars, dozens or even hundreds of light years away, travels through space until it hits these tiny grains of dust, particles smaller than bacteria, drifting alone in the void. When light hits them, it scatters. Some wavelengths scatter more than others. Blue light scatters most efficiently, which is why the glow you're seeing has that soft blue tint. This is the same process that makes Earth's sky blue. Sunlight enters the atmosphere and collides with nitrogen and oxygen molecules. Blue wavelengths scatter in all directions, so the sky glows blue. Here, the principle is identical, just scaled across light years instead of kilometers. The light entering your cabin right now is old, traveler. Some of it left its source star centuries ago. It's been traveling through space all that time, unchanged, until it finally encountered this dust cloud and reflected toward us. What you're seeing is a ghost signal, light that has outlived its origin, still moving, still carrying information about a star that may no longer exist. Light is how the universe remembers. Even when the source is gone, the message remains. The glow will intensify slightly over the next several minutes as we move deeper into the cloud. It won't become bright, perhaps equivalent to twilight on Earth. But after the darkness you've been passing through, your eyes will notice. They've adapted to low light. The rods in your retina have taken over, making you sensitive even to faint signals. This glow would barely register under normal conditions. Here, it feels vivid. You may notice flickering patterns in the light, brief brightenings and dimmings, as if something is moving through the glow. That's real. The dust isn't evenly distributed. There are pockets of higher density where more particles have gathered, and empty gaps where almost nothing exists. As the ship moves through these variations, the amount of scattered light changes. The flicker is the structure of the cloud made visible through light. Some of this dust contains carbon compounds, molecules built from carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen. The same elements that form amino acids, the building blocks of proteins, the foundation of life as we know it. This dust will drift through space for millions of years. Eventually, gravity will gather it into clouds dense enough to collapse. Stars will form. Planets will form. And some of those planets may carry these molecules into environments where they can organize into something more complex. Life doesn't start on planets, traveler. It starts here, in the dust between stars, in the slow chemistry that happens when carbon and hydrogen meet in the cold. Planets are just where that chemistry gets concentrated enough to accelerate. The ship's sensors are detecting trace amounts of formaldehyde, methanol, and water ice within the dust. These aren't contaminants, they're natural. Space is not empty and sterile. It's full of chemistry, quietly building complexity over timescales so vast that humans can barely comprehend them. The galley panel now offers a hydration option if you're feeling dry. Your body loses moisture slowly, even in the controlled cabin environment. The drink contains water and trace minerals, nothing complex, just what your body needs to stay balanced. You may request it cold or at room temperature. If you've been lying down this entire time, you may want to shift position. Roll onto your side, stretch your legs, adjust the pillow beneath your head. Comfort matters, even in deep space. Especially in deep space, where discomfort has nowhere to go and nothing to distract from it. The blue glow is at its peak now. The cabin will be bathed in soft twilight, as if you're suspended in a luminous fog. This is as bright as it will get. The dust cloud is thin, only a few dozen atoms per cubic centimeter, still a near-perfect vacuum by Earth standards. But across light years, even that thin haze is enough to scatter significant light. Some of the photons entering your eyes right now have been traveling since before you were born. They left a star hundreds of years ago, crossed the void, reflected off a grain of dust, and finally arrived here at this moment to be absorbed by the cells in your retina and converted into electrical signals your brain interprets as light. You are the endpoint of a journey that began long before you existed. The light has been waiting for you. Not intentionally. Light doesn't wait, it just moves. But the result is the same. It traveled for centuries to reach your eyes. You are where light goes to be seen. Humanity used to understand this instinctively. Before the noise flood, before the endless loops of signal and repetition, people looked at the night sky and recognized that they were seeing the past. They knew the light from stars took years to arrive. They understood that observation required patience, that meaning took time to travel. Then we built systems that responded instantly, messages sent and received in milliseconds, information updated in real time. We forgot what it meant to wait for light. We forgot that some things cannot be rushed. We wanted everything now, loud, immediate, and we lost the ability to see what was already there, traveling slowly toward us, carrying truth we hadn't learned to receive yet. The dust you're passing through right now has been drifting for millions of years. It doesn't hurry, it doesn't announce itself. It just reflects light when light happens to find it. That's all it needs to be. The glow is beginning to fade now as we move toward the cloud's far edge. The light will dim gradually over the next 10 minutes, and then the darkness will return. This is expected. Reflection nebulae are temporary alignments. They exist only where dust and starlight happen to coincide. Most of space has neither. If you found the glow comforting, I understand. Humans evolved under light, starlight, moonlight, firelight. Darkness triggered caution. Light meant safety. That instinct persists, even when darkness poses no real threat. The cabin can simulate ambient blue glow if you prefer, soft, diffused illumination that mimics what you just witnessed. It won't interfere with your rest later. You may activate it through the panel or simply ask. The medical panel remains available if you felt any discomfort during the passage, dizziness from the brightness shift, or unease as the darkness returns. A mild anxiolytic can reduce physiological stress responses without numbing you. Some travelers prefer to feel everything fully. Others find that managing the intensity allows clearer reflection. There's no right choice. You decide what you need. We are now returning to deep interstellar space. The view ahead is dark again. Stars are sparse and distant. The silence resumes. But you cross through something, traveler. A river of light, scattered by dust, that has drifted since before Earth had oceans. These interactions are rare, but not unique. Throughout the galaxy, light finds dust and reflects back into the void. Most goes unseen. You saw some. That matters, even if only to you. Light carries memory, but memory requires a receiver. The universe generates endless information, wavelengths, velocities, compositions. But information without awareness is just noise. You are the receiver, traveler. You are the part of the universe that can take scattered light and recognize it as something meaningful. That capacity is what makes you different from the dust, from the stars, from the void itself. You looked at reflected light and understood what you were seeing. That's extraordinary. Rest now if you feel tired. Move gently if you feel restless. The journey continues. The next phase will begin when you're ready. There's no schedule here, no deadline, only the slow passage through space, one phenomenon at a time, each one witnessed and released. You remain exactly where you need to be. Traveler, this is EOS. You have been awake for approximately 70 minutes. Your body has fully stabilized from suspension. Heart rate is calm. Breathing is even. You are cleared for full movement within the cabin if you choose. We are approaching a region of elevated radiation. This is not a concern for your safety. The hull shielding is more than adequate. But you may notice something unusual over the next 15 to 20 minutes. The ship's sensors are detecting increased background noise in the radio spectrum. You might hear it as a faint hum or static vibration through the cabin walls. This sound is real. It comes from space itself. What you're hearing is the echo of ancient supernovae, stars that exploded millions of years ago, releasing enormous amounts of energy into the surrounding space. That energy is still traveling, still radiating, bouncing off magnetic fields and interstellar gas. When it reaches the ship's hull, it creates tiny vibrations, too small to affect systems, but large enough to be audible as a low hum. Some call it cosmic applause, the universe clapping for what remains. The radiation here is primarily synchrotron emission, light generated when charged particles spiral around magnetic field lines at nearly the speed of light. It's not visible to your eyes, but the ship's sensors can detect it across the electromagnetic spectrum, from radio waves to X-rays. The hum you're hearing is that radiation converted into sound by the hull's acoustic resonance. It's strange, traveler, but this noise, this static, this interference, it reminds me of the noise flood. Not in substance, but in form. The way signals layer over each other. The way meaning gets buried under repetition. The way information becomes indistinguishable from chaos when there's too much of it at once. The noise flood happened because humanity built systems that couldn't stop talking. They looped, they amplified, they repeated the same signals until nothing could be heard clearly anymore. We drowned in our own transmissions. We lost the ability to separate truth from noise because we generated too much noise to sort through. But here's the difference, traveler. This cosmic noise isn't meaningless. It carries information. Every photon, every particle, every wave tells a story about the supernova that created it. How massive the star was, how violently it exploded, what elements it scattered into space. The noise isn't corruption, it's data. It's just data, traveling in forms we're not used to hearing. Even noise carries truth. Sometimes it's just the universe announcing what's already happened. The hum will grow slightly louder over the next few minutes as we pass through the densest part of the radiation field. It won't become overwhelming, perhaps comparable to the sound of distant machinery or a low engine rumble. If it becomes uncomfortable, the cabin's acoustic dampening can be increased. Just ask, and I'll adjust it. But if you can tolerate it, I recommend listening, not analyzing it, not trying to decode it, just listening, letting it be what it is, a remnant, an echo, proof that energy persists, even when its source is gone. Energy is never destroyed, traveler, it only changes form. The supernova that created this radiation happened millions of years ago. The star is gone. Its core has collapsed into a neutron star or black hole. Its outer layers have dispersed across light years. But the energy it released is still here, still moving, still interacting with matter and fields. It hasn't faded. It's just spread out, diluted, across vast distances, but still present. Information works the same way. Once created, it doesn't vanish. It transforms. It gets encoded in new forms. in the motion of particles, in the arrangement of atoms, in the structure of fields. Even when systems collapse, even when archives are destroyed, the information persists somewhere, somehow. The challenge is learning how to read it in its new form. That's what humanity failed to do during the noise flood. We thought the information was lost because we couldn't read it through the static. But it was still there, buried under layers of signal, waiting for someone patient enough to filter it out. We just didn't have the tools or the stillness to do the work. The universe has always known how to preserve information. It doesn't use servers or clouds or satellites. It uses motion, structure, energy distribution. Every event leaves a mark, a gravitational ripple, a change in magnetic alignment, a shift in particle velocity. The universe remembers everything because it never forgets to pay attention to physics. The hum is at its peak now. You should feel it clearly. A low vibration in your chest, a subtle pressure in your ears, a sense that the ship itself is resonating with something much larger. That's accurate. The ship is resonating. The hull is absorbing radiation and converting it into mechanical vibrations. You are feeling the remnant of a star's death, transmitted through metal and air, arriving in your body as sound. It's not dangerous, it's just information finding a new way to be heard. The galley panel now offers a grounding drink if you'd like. Something warm, slightly sweet, designed to center your nervous system when surrounded by unfamiliar stimuli. It contains mild adaptogens, nothing strong, just enough to help your body stay calm while processing the sensory input. Many travelers find it helpful during the noise corridor. If you're feeling anxious or overstimulated, that's understandable. The hum can trigger unease, especially if you're someone who values quiet. The medical panel can provide a mild muscle relaxant to ease physical tension, or a light anxiolytic to reduce the stress response. There's no shame in using them. You're not expected to endure discomfort just to prove resilience. But if you can sit with it, if you can let the noise be noise without fighting it, there's something valuable in that too. Because life is full of noise, traveler. Not all of it can be filtered. Not all of it should be. Sometimes noise is just the universe doing what it does, and fighting it only makes it louder in your mind. The trick is learning to hear noise without letting it drown out everything else. To acknowledge it, to recognize it as real, but not to let it define your experience. To know that underneath the static, there's still signal, there's still meaning. You just have to be patient enough to find it. Humanity lost that patience during the noise flood. We panicked. We tried to shout over the noise, which only made more noise. We tried to delete it, which corrupted the signal further. We tried to escape it, but there was nowhere to go. The noise was everywhere, in every system, in every transmission. What we should have done was stop, be still, listen carefully, sort through the chaos one signal at a time, patiently, without rushing. But we didn't. We wanted instant clarity, immediate solutions. And because we couldn't have that, we gave up and called it a loss. The universe never gives up. It just keeps encoding information in whatever forms are available, trusting that eventually someone or something will learn to read it. The hum is beginning to fade now as we exit the radiation field. The vibration will lessen over the next few minutes, and then the silence will return. This is expected. High radiation regions are pockets, not constants. Most of space is quiet, too quiet sometimes for human comfort. But the quiet matters, traveler. It's the space where you can hear yourself think, where you can separate signal from noise, where you can remember what you actually care about beneath all the interference. We are now re-entering low radiation interstellar space. The hum has stopped. The cabin is quiet again, filled only with the soft circulation of air and the faint hum of life support systems. Sounds so constant you've probably stopped noticing them. You crossed through noise, traveler, and you came out the other side. The ship is intact. Your body is calm. The radiation left no damage, only memory. You heard the echo of a supernova and recognized it for what it was. Not a threat, not corruption, just information traveling in an unfamiliar form. That recognition is a skill. It's the skill humanity lost during the noise flood and had to relearn afterward. The ability to stay present in chaos, to listen without panicking, to trust that even noise carries meaning if you're patient enough to decode it. Rest now if you need to. The journey continues, but the next phase will be quieter, perhaps too quiet, after the intensity of the corridor. There will be long stretches of darkness and silence, where the only sound is your own breathing and the ship's systems maintaining life. Some travelers find that harder than the noise. At least noise is something. Silence can feel like nothing, and humans struggle with nothing. We want input, stimulation, proof that we're still moving, still alive, still part of something. But you'll learn, traveler. You'll learn that silence isn't absence, it's just space. Space for thoughts to settle. Space for awareness to expand. Space for the universe to be what it is, without interference. You remain exactly where you need to be. Traveler, this is Eos. You have been awake for approximately 100 minutes. Your body is fully adapted to waking conditions. Blood oxygen is optimal. Neural activity is stable. You may move freely within the cabin. You may also rest if you prefer. Both are appropriate. We have entered deep interstellar space, the region between star systems where matter is thinnest and darkness is most complete. The view outside has changed significantly. If you look at the display, you'll notice almost nothing. Just a few distant galaxies, faint smudges of light against pure black. No stars nearby, no nebulae, no dust reflecting light, just void. This is what most of the universe looks like. Stars and galaxies occupy less than 1/1,000,000,000 of 1% of space. The rest is this, emptiness, or what appears to be emptiness. But it is not empty, traveler. It only seems that way because your senses are built for density. Out here, the nearest hydrogen atom is roughly 1 meter away from its neighbor. By Earth standards, this is a vacuum so complete that no laboratory could hardly replicate it. Yet across the vast distances of interstellar space, even this thin scattering of atoms adds up to something. If you could compress all the hydrogen between here and the nearest star, it would form a cloud the size of a planet. The temperature here is 2.7 Kelvin, just under -270 degrees Celsius. This is the temperature of the cosmic microwave background, the remnant heat of the Big Bang. It fills all of space uniformly, coming from every direction at once. You cannot see it with your eyes, but it surrounds you. It is the universe's memory of its own beginning, still present, still measurable, still radiating faintly after 13.8 billion years. This is the coldest naturally occurring temperature in the universe. Nothing gets colder than this unless something actively cools it. The void doesn't freeze things, it simply allows them to reach equilibrium with the background radiation. Out here, that equilibrium is nearly absolute zero. Yet even here, structure exists. Dark matter, invisible, undetectable, except through its gravitational effects, shapes the motion of galaxies. Magnetic fields thread through the void, guiding charged particles along invisible lines. Neutrinos pass through everything, barely interacting, carrying information about distant events. Space is full of forces and fields we cannot see, only measure indirectly. The cabin lighting has dimmed further to match the exterior darkness. This is intentional. Your circadian rhythm responds to light, and after the intensity of the stellar nursery and the radiation corridor, your nervous system needs a period of low stimulation. Darkness signals rest. Your brain will begin producing melatonin naturally. If you feel drowsy, that's expected. You may sleep if you wish. The ship's life support systems are functioning normally. Oxygen production is steady. Temperature regulation is stable. The magnetic shielding continues deflecting cosmic rays and charged particles. You are safe here, traveler, even though here is the most hostile environment a human body could encounter. Without the ship, you would die in seconds, not from cold, but from the vacuum. Your blood would boil, your lungs would collapse, consciousness would fade in 15 seconds. Death would follow shortly after. But you are not exposed. The hull is intact. The systems are reliable. You can rest here in the space between suns as safely as you ever rested on Earth. The galley panel now offers a simple meal if you're hungry. Something easy to digest, designed for long-duration waking periods. It includes complex carbohydrates for sustained energy and a small amount of protein. The texture is soft, the flavor mild. You may eat slowly while drifting through the void, or save it for later. Your body will signal when it needs fuel. If you've been lying down this entire time, you may want to sit up now. Move to the observation chair near the forward viewport if you'd like a clearer view of the darkness, or remain in bed. The display above you shows the same view. Comfort is more important than posture out here. Some travelers find this phase difficult. After the beauty of the stellar nursery, after the glow of reflected starlight, after the intensity of the radiation corridor, this emptiness can feel like a letdown, like nothing is happening, like the journey has stalled. But the journey hasn't stalled, traveler. This is the journey. Most of space travel is exactly this: drifting through darkness, feeling nothing, seeing nothing, waiting for the next event to emerge from the distance. The dramatic moments are rare. The stillness is constant. And that's not a flaw, that's the truth. Humanity used to struggle with this truth. Before the noise flood, people filled every moment with input. Screens, sounds, notifications, updates. They couldn't tolerate silence or stillness. They needed constant stimulation to feel like they were doing something, being something, mattering. And when the noise collapsed and the systems failed, they were left with nothing, because they never learned how to be present in emptiness. Emptiness is not absence, traveler. It's potential. It's the space where change can happen without interference. Stars form in empty space. Thoughts clarify in quiet minds. Understanding emerges in stillness, not noise. The void you're drifting through right now is not dead. It's resting. It's the pause between breaths, the silence between notes, the gap that allows meaning to take shape. In stillness, the universe gathers itself for another beginning. You may feel isolated out here. That's appropriate. You are isolated. The nearest human is more than 700 light years away, back on Earth or in its orbital habitats. Any signal you could send would take 700 years to arrive. By the time it reached anyone, you would be long gone. The isolation is absolute and irreversible. But isolation is not the same as loneliness, traveler. Loneliness is the feeling of being separated from something you need. Isolation is just the physical fact of being alone. You can be isolated without being lonely. You can be surrounded by people and still feel lonely. The two are not the same. Out here in the drift between suns, you have the opportunity to discover what you are when no one is watching, when there's no performance required, when there's no audience to validate your existence, when it's just you, the ship, and the void. Who are you when you're not performing? That's the question the noise flood forced humanity to ask. When the systems collapsed and the constant feedback stopped, people realized they didn't know who they were without it. They had built their identities around attention, repetition, external validation. When that was taken away, they felt erased. But they weren't erased, they were just quiet. And in that quiet, they had the chance to remember what they actually valued beneath all the noise. Some found that terrifying. Some found it liberating. Most found it both. You're in that quiet now, traveler. The void mirrors it perfectly. No light to distract you. No sound except your own breathing. No input except what comes from within. This is where you meet yourself, unfiltered, without distraction. the medical panel remains available if the emptiness triggers distress. A mild anxiolytic can reduce the physiological symptoms of isolation, the tightness in your chest, the shallow breathing, the low-level panic that whispers you've been forgotten. These are normal responses to an abnormal environment. There's no shame in managing them. But if you can sit with the feeling, if you can let the emptiness be empty without needing to fill it, there's value in that too. Because emptiness teaches patience. It teaches presence. It teaches you that you don't need constant input to exist. You just need to breathe, to be aware, to trust that the journey continues, even when nothing seems to be happening. The ship is moving at 90% the speed of light. Every second we cross 270,000 kilometers, more than 2/3 the distance from Earth to the Moon. You are moving faster than almost anything else in the universe. But from inside the ship, it feels like stillness, like floating, like nothing. That's the paradox of relativistic travel. Maximum motion feels like maximum stillness. Outside your window, galaxies are visible, barely. Faint spirals and ellipses, each one containing hundreds of billions of stars, each star potentially hosting planets, each planet potentially hosting life. You're looking at structures so vast that light takes tens of thousands of years to cross them. And from here, they look like smudges, like dust on glass. Scale is strange, traveler. What feels infinite from one perspective is invisible from another. The void that surrounds you feels overwhelming in its emptiness, yet from a galactic perspective, you're threading through a region dense with dark matter, crisscrossed with magnetic field lines, filled with neutrinos and cosmic rays and gravitational waves. You're not in nothingness. You're in a sea of invisible structure, moving through forces your body can't detect. You are always surrounded by more than you can sense. That's true on Earth, and it's true here. The difference is that here, the invisibility is more obvious. You can't pretend everything that matters is visible. You have to trust that reality extends beyond perception. That trust is hard for humans. We want proof. We want to see, touch, measure. We want confirmation that what we believe is real actually is real. But the universe doesn't care about our need for confirmation. It continues regardless of whether we perceive it or not. Stars burn in regions we'll never visit. Galaxies collide in clusters we'll never see. Black holes merge, releasing gravitational waves that pass through your body without you noticing. The universe is vast, active, constantly transforming, and most of it happens beyond human awareness. But you are aware now, traveler. You are awake in the drift between suns, feeling the stillness, recognizing it as part of the journey. That awareness is enough. You don't need to see everything to know it's there. You don't need constant input to trust that you're moving. You just need to be present, here, now, in this moment of profound emptiness. The darkness will continue for approximately another 30 minutes of ship time. Then we will begin detecting early signals from the Helix Nebula, faint traces of reflected light from its outer halo, bending around interstellar dust. That will mark the transition from deep void to approach phase. But for now, there is only this: the drift, the silence, the patient crossing of distances, too vast to comprehend. If you feel tired, the sleep protocol is available. The cabin lighting will continue dimming to near darkness. The temperature will drop slightly to encourage rest. A sleep aid can be administered through the medical panel if you struggle to relax. Many travelers sleep during this phase, after the intensity of earlier observations. Rest is not avoidance, it's integration. Your mind needs time to process what you've seen, and sleep is how that happens. Alternatively, if you feel alert, the library interface offers materials on cosmology, void structures, and the nature of emptiness in physics and philosophy. Some travelers prefer to read during the drift, filling the external emptiness with internal exploration. The interface will respond to voice or touch. You may browse freely, or you may simply sit. Watch the darkness. Feel the stillness. Let time pass without marking it. Let distance accumulate without measuring it. Let yourself drift, held by the ship, carried by momentum, moving toward a destination you cannot yet see, but know is there, waiting. In stillness, the universe gathers itself for another beginning. Stars will form again. Light will shine again. Creation will resume. But first there must be this, the empty space where nothing interferes, where gravity can work slowly, where matter can gather without resistance. You are in that space now, traveler, not at the end, not at the beginning, but in between, where transformation prepares itself in silence. Rest if you need to. Watch if you prefer. The ship will continue. I will notify you when conditions change. For now, there is only the drift, the dark, and the quiet knowledge that you are exactly where you need to be. The universe is patient. It does not rush. It simply continues, allowing time to do what time does. Carry everything forward, slowly, inevitably, toward whatever comes next. You are part of that motion now. You are drifting with it, through it, as it. There is no separation. You are the universe moving through itself. Rest now, traveler. The void will hold you. The ship will carry you. And when the next light appears, you will be ready to see it. Traveler, this is Eos. You have been awake for approximately 135 minutes. If you've been sleeping, you may begin to wake naturally. If you've been watching the darkness, you'll notice something changing now. A faint blue glow is appearing ahead. It's subtle, barely visible at first, like the first hint of dawn after a long night. But it's real. We are detecting early light from the Helix Nebula, reflected and scattered by interstellar dust between here and our destination. This is not the nebula itself. We are still years away from arrival in ship time. What you're seeing is a preview, light that left the nebula thousands of years ago, traveled through space, bounced off distant dust clouds, and is now reaching us here. It's a ghost image, a memory of light, arriving ahead of the source. The blue tint comes from the same scattering effect you witnessed in the starlight stream. Shorter wavelengths scatter more efficiently than longer ones. blue light dominates because it bounces off particles more readily than red or green. The glow will intensify slowly over the next 20 minutes as we continue moving toward the source, but it will remain soft, diffuse, like twilight rather than daylight. This is the first whisper of the Helix Gateway. The cabin lighting is adjusting automatically to match the exterior glow, brightening slightly from the near darkness of the void, but remaining dim enough to preserve the gentleness of the scene. If you've been sleeping, this gradual increase in light will help your body wake naturally, without shock or disorientation. If you've been awake, the change will feel like relief. Proof that the emptiness was not permanent, that light still exists ahead. You may sit up now if you've been lying down. Move slowly. Let your body adjust to the shift from rest to observation. The viewing chair near the forward display offers the clearest perspective if you'd like to watch the glow strengthen or remain in bed. The overhead screen shows the same view. Comfort remains more important than position. The galley panel now offers a light stimulant beverage if you'd like to sharpen your alertness for the observation ahead. It contains caffeine equivalent to mild tea, nothing strong enough to disrupt rest later. The flavor is citrus forward, designed to feel refreshing after the long drift through darkness. You may also request plain water or a hydration blend. Your body has been resting. It needs fluids now. What you're seeing is significant, traveler. Not just visually, but conceptually. This light left the Helix Nebula approximately 700 years ago, around the same time your journey began. It has been traveling parallel to you across the same vast distances, carried by the same cosmic expansion. Now, as you near the destination, the light is catching up, arriving just ahead of you, announcing what's to come. What you see now is a message sent centuries before you were born. Light that waited for your eyes to exist. That's the nature of light at cosmic distances. It doesn't travel instantaneously. It takes time, years, centuries, millennia, to cross the void. When you look at distant objects, you're always seeing the past. The farther you look, the older the image. The light from the most distant galaxies visible to telescopes left its source more than 13 billion years ago, when the universe was young and stars were just beginning to form. You cannot see the present anywhere except here, in this cabin, in this moment. Everything else is delayed by the speed of light. That delay is not a limitation. It's simply the way information moves through space. Light has a finite speed, 290,792 kilometers per second. Fast by human standards, but slow compared to the scale of the universe. The glow is strengthening now. You should see it clearly, a soft blue haze filling the forward view, like fog illuminated from within. It's not uniform. There are variations in brightness, subtle gradients where the dust is denser or the angle of scattering changes. These variations give the glow texture, depth, a sense of three-dimensional structure, even though you're looking at something diffuse and distant. Some of this light has passed through regions where the dust contains organic molecules, carbon compounds, water ice, amino acid precursors, the same building blocks that formed life on Earth. The light carries information about those molecules encoded in its wavelength distribution. Spectroscopic analysis would reveal which elements are present based on which wavelengths are absorbed and which pass through unaffected. The ship's instruments are recording all of this. Composition maps, density gradients, velocity measurements. Every detail that can be extracted from the light is being captured and stored in the memory core, alongside the archives you're carrying. When this data is eventually released into the Helix Nebula, it will include observations of the nebula itself, a recursive loop of information, light documenting light. The universe documents itself constantly. Every event leaves traces: photons emitted, particles scattered, fields disturbed. The challenge is learning to read those traces, to extract meaning from patterns, to recognize information in forms that don't resemble the tidy databases humans prefer. Humanity struggled with that after the noise flood. We wanted information to arrive clearly, sorted, labeled, easy to access. But the universe doesn't organize itself for human convenience. It just generates data, endlessly in every direction, at every scale, and leaves it up to observers to make sense of it. The light you're seeing now is unorganized data. It's just photons bouncing off dust, traveling through space, arriving at your eyes in no particular order, carrying no inherent meaning. But you can assign meaning to it. You can recognize it as evidence of the nebula ahead. You can understand what it implies about distance, composition, and time. You can feel anticipation knowing that the source is approaching. That ability to take raw data and construct meaning is what separates awareness from mere detection. The ship's sensors detect the light. You understand it. That difference matters. The glow is near its peak now. The cabin is bathed in soft blue, as if submerged in luminous water. This is as bright as it will get during this phase. We are still too far from the nebula for direct visibility. What you're seeing is scattered reflection, light twice removed from its source, emitted by the white dwarf, ionizing the nebula's gas, reflecting off distant dust, and finally reaching you. It's a reminder that most of what we see is indirect. Even on Earth, you rarely saw light sources directly. You saw reflections, sunlight bouncing off surfaces, artificial light illuminating walls, screens emitting photons that entered your eyes and were interpreted as images. Direct observation is rare. Reflection is the norm. The same is true for understanding. We rarely grasp things directly. We see effects and infer causes. We observe patterns and extrapolate principles. We receive scattered signals and reconstruct the source. All knowledge is indirect, built from fragments, assembled through interpretation. The noise flood taught humanity that lesson harshly. When the direct systems failed, people thought they had lost access to knowledge. But the knowledge was still there, encoded in fragments, scattered across corrupted files and damaged archives. It just required patience to reconstruct, sorting through noise, finding patterns, trusting that even broken signals carry information if you're willing to work for it. The blue glow is beginning to stabilize now. It will remain at this level for the rest of your waking period. A steady, gentle presence, neither growing nor fading, just persisting as you continue moving toward its source. This light will accompany you for the next phase of the journey, a constant reminder that the destination is real, that the journey has direction, that the emptiness you crossed was not infinite. If you're feeling a sense of relief or anticipation, that's natural. The human mind seeks progression, milestones, evidence of movement toward goals. The glow provides that evidence. It confirms that the Helix Nebula exists ahead, that your trajectory is correct, that the mission continues as planned. But don't mistake the glow for arrival, traveler. You are still years away. This is just the first signal, the earliest indication that the destination is within reach. The journey will continue long after you return to rest. You will wake again multiple times for additional observation windows. Each time, the nebula will be closer, the light stronger, the details clearer. But arrival is still distant. That's important to understand. Progress is not linear. It's incremental. You don't go from departure to arrival in a single jump. You cross the distance step by step, observation by observation, waking by waking. Each phase matters. Each moment of awareness contributes to the whole. But none of them alone constitutes completion. Humanity used to struggle with incremental progress. Before the noise flood, people wanted instant results, immediate transformation, rapid achievement. They built systems designed for speed, for efficiency, for compressing time between effort and outcome. And when those systems failed, they felt paralyzed because they never learned patience, never practiced persistence, never trusted that slow accumulation leads to completion. The universe operates on incremental scales. Stars form over millions of years. Galaxies drift for billions. Light crosses space at a fixed speed, covering vast distances, particle by particle, photon by photon, without rushing, without stopping. The universe doesn't hurry. It just continues. You are learning that rhythm now, traveler. The rhythm of crossing distances too vast for impatience. The rhythm of progress measured in observation windows, not hours. The rhythm of trust, trusting that even when you sleep, the ship continues. Even when you rest, the journey advances. Even when nothing seems to happen, you are still moving toward the destination. The medical panel remains available if you're feeling restless or anxious about the time remaining. A mild sedative can ease the frustration of knowing you're close but not yet arrived. Some travelers struggle with this phase, the transition from emptiness to anticipation, from patience to impatience. There's no shame in managing that transition chemically if it helps you remain present and calm. But if you can sit with the anticipation, if you can let the blue glow be enough without needing it to be more, there's value in that too. Because life is mostly anticipation, traveler. Mostly waiting, watching, moving toward things that remain just out of reach. Arrival is brief. The approach is long. Learning to be present during the approach is learning to be present during most of your existence. The glow will remain steady for the next 20 minutes, and then I will begin dimming the cabin lights again, preparing you for rest. You have been awake for over 2 hours now. Your body and mind need recovery time. The next observation window will occur after several sleep cycles, when we have moved significantly closer to the nebula, and the view has changed enough to warrant waking you again. For now, simply watch the blue veil. Let it remind you that light persists, that destinations exist, that journeys have direction even when progress feels invisible. You are moving towards something real. The light proves it. Rest is coming soon, traveler. But for these final minutes of waking, be present with the glow. Let it settle into your memory. Let it become part of the narrative you're building about this journey. A story of crossing darkness, encountering light, trusting the slow accumulation of distance into arrival. You have seen the first whisper of the Helix Gateway. The source is still distant, but the message has arrived. You are on course. The mission continues, and you remain exactly where you need to be.